If your Land Rover Range Rover has some rough shifting characteristics or slipping characteristics, before you throw in the towel and buy a new transmission for it and spend all of that money, try putting the zip kit in your transmission first. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to rebuild that mechatronics unit that is responsible for all the shifts in your transmission using the zip kit. Now, if you use the instructions and the video that I have, you'll be right as rain and save yourself a ton of money.
Money, 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 money.
Now, I'm not sponsored by Sonnax, but if they want to, I'm here, I'm available for it. This video is purely for you. This is to show you exactly how to do this kit at home in your own garage. And I would recommend doing it in a garage. You do need a clean environment. But anyway, enough blabbing, let's get into it. All right, we got a few 10s here for the shield. And then we have a few 8s. All right, we got 2 8s that we need to take off of the shifter bracket. And what that does, it gets our shifter bracket out of the way so we can get to this 8mm bolt here. And I'm just going to put these 2 back in here so we don't lose where they go. And we can take this one off. There's that. Then we have the same thing right here and here for the shield as well. You can't get a ratchet in there because of the drive shaft, so you're going to have to use a wrench. I don't have an 8mm ratchet wrench. Do they make such a thing? Like, I could use one of those. Just sitting here, taking my 8mm bolt out forever. Probably a country song.
I'm just sitting here with a 8mm bolt in my hand. Been turning it forever, trying to make this whole thing understand.
1 of 2. And there's our shield. All right, we're back over here now, and we need to take our fill plug out so that when we take the drain plug out, it can vent. I believe it is an 8mm. And I am right. Do not take the plug out the whole way right now, or else you'll end up with fluid everywhere. Ugh. There we go. We'll just crack her loose so we can open it by hand. Now you see my pan is likely different from yours because I have a metal pan. I did the conversion from Atlantic British that actually separates the filter away from the pan, and it now becomes a replacement filter inside of here, and you can reuse your pan. There's 2 plugs here. We're not using the big plug like they do on the old ones. We're using this one to drain with. If I remember right, this is 5mm. Yep, it sure is. See our nice red fluid. Now we need to reach up here and undo our TCM harness, which is just a twist lock connection. Turn that counterclockwise. It'll pull the harness out just like so. Now we need to take our transmission pan bolts out and get our pan off. All right, the bolts are all out, and we're now going to drop our pan. And the filter came with it, which is good. Now we're going to pull our drain pan back so we can capture all the fluid coming out of here. There we go. Then we need to pull this release down here by pushing it in right here and then pulling down like so. And what that does is release the locking collar here that are around the pins of the TCM. And we need to take this out. Now, I replaced this just a few months ago, so hopefully it comes out easier. I'm not sure. All you do is just pull it straight out. I'm going to try to do this without breaking it. I'm not going to be able to do this with the camera on. Now, you're going to start taking these bolts out right here. These are T40s, and they're the ones with the fatter head on them. And there's 11 of them that hold this valve body in place. You also need to make sure this linkage right here is riding in this groove of this valve right here. Also, there's a nub on the electronic piece here that rides in there as well. This is what tells the vehicle what gear you're in. So you need to make sure that's in the right spot as well. This shifts the transmission between the gears. This tells the vehicle what gear you're actually in. There it goes. Now we're going to take this out and put it on the bench. Oops, I kind of made a mess. But you'll have this. Okay, we removed the mechatronics unit from the transmission, which is what this whole thing is called, the mechatronics unit. This also houses your TCM, which is all of this black part and the brown part. Now, when you're handling this, stay away from the pins here. Any static electricity can fry this TCM, and these are super expensive, and you have to get them programmed to the car. We don't want none of that, but we do have to take this off of the mechatronics unit. On my ZF6 HP28, we need to take this bolt, this bolt, this bolt, this bolt, and these two bolts off. These are T27s, and I do believe these will be longer. We're going to flip it on its back, and I'm just double checking that we've gotten all of the bolts removed from it. You can kind of see where the bolts were through, and we're going to carefully pry this off. Again, avoiding touching the pins over here for the TCM connector. All right, start separating, being very careful. There we go. Just take a lot of care with this. Pry at the guide pins. Do not pry on the rest of the plastic. Now we're going to take the actual TCM here and just get it out of our way, somewhere clean, somewhere static free, because we do not need this at this point. Now with the TCM removed, we want to flip this back over, and we're now going to take out all of the rest of the bolts that are in this so we can separate the halves. I'm going to take the bolts from the TCM and put them with the TCM just so I remember that's where they came from. I'm thinking the rest of these bolts should all be the same size. I think we've got them all cracked loose now. Now with all our bolts out, we can separate our halves of this mechatronics unit. Now, you may have to pry this, but it appears that mine is already loose and ready to come off. So I'm just going to tilt mine up, have lots of fluid that I can hear draining out, and I'm just going to flip it over onto this other cloth here. This is our gasket right here, and we will separate that here shortly. This side of it, you need to be very careful with. There are springs and seats in here. Mine has 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to try not to disturb them and keep this flat because I don't want to lose anything. There's also check balls in here all over the place. I see there. Like, I'm going to try not to disturb those because I don't even want to take them out. Let's get our gasket off and take a look at that. Okay. Doesn't look horrible. A couple areas where the gasket material is pulled off. Not bad, not bad. Now you're going to go by your quick sheet that came with the zip kit. And it's telling you what to replace and where on both halves of the mechatronics unit. Now I'm going to orient mine the right way. I am going to have to take my solenoids off, but let me get these oriented the way they're supposed to be. Okay, so I actually did end up taking the check valves and springs out and all the check balls as well, just because I want to be able to clean this out, and it'll also help me get other components out of it. All right, the blue check valve went here, white one went here, here, and here. This area right here was a pivot ball, and then you can kind of see where your check balls were. You'll see the round pores where they kind of went in. A little nerve-wracking because I did forget to hit record when I took all those check balls out, so hopefully we get them all back in the right place.
Idiot!
Now that we've gotten all the internals out of this, except for these valves, because we're replacing those, I've dumped a lot of the transmission fluid out. And I want to get these valves out. Kind of the best way to do that is just to, you can start popping them out like this. They'll start falling out. We're going to replace all of them. There's 7 of them on this transmission. And in a second, I'm going to show you what they look like and why they would get replaced. All right, that's all 7 of them right there. These are basically rubber springs. And you can see this one's a lot flatter than this one is. And that'll let a lot of hydraulic pressure through. And in the zip kit, it replaces those with an actual spring. Now before I start replacing these valves, I'm going to replace these 2 plungers down here. And those are part number 4 in the kit. And what we're going to do is just, without marring up any surfaces, pull these pins out, these retainer pins, like so. And then using a pair of needle nose pliers, we're going to pull those out of there. Just like that. Now the new ones that we put in are going to have O-rings around them. So we need part number 4. And these each come with an O-ring that you need to put over top into this groove right here. It's going to be quite the stretch. So there we go. Just like that. Now what we want to do is lube this up with a little bit of tranny fluid before we slide that back in there. I think maybe we can tap that in with a little bit of a socket. There we go. And then we can put our locking clip back in after we push that in. Just like so. All right, now I'm putting our check valves in. Put your spring in there, then you can put your valve in and slide it down. Make sure you lube these up. Once I get all these in, this side of the mechatronics unit will be done. There's all 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. These 2 plungers are replaced. So I'm going to put my internals back just so I have them back in and out of the way, and we'll move on to the top half. All right, now with the top half, we need to take our solenoids out. And you need to pay attention to what order these solenoids are in. So starting from this end, we have 2 orange, 1 blue, 2 yellow, a blue, and a yellow again. And the way we take these out is to take out all of these bolts. And these should be 37s again, which they are. Oh my goodness, they're tight. Once you get your last bolt out, you can take your retainer clip out and set that off to the side. And then you can start taking your solenoids out. You may be able to just pull them out, or you might have to pry. All right, the next thing we're going to start doing is replacing the dumbbell valves that are inside here where the solenoids were. Because they're the hardest to get out and in, this is what the old ones look like right here. And the new ones have O-rings around them to take up for any loss in the bore that was wore out or anything like that. So to get these out, put your finger in there because there will be spring pressure behind here, and start pulling the retainer clip up. There, that one released now and hit my finger. And then you just start feeding it through some of the orifices here, taking care not to scratch any of your surfaces here. And there we go. There's the old one out. Just like so. Now we want to lubricate up our new barbell seal. I just take a little bit of the tranny fluid that's already in the bore there, wet her down nice. We want to try to avoid cutting these O-rings. And then you're going to install the new one with the threaded hole on the outside. And I believe that's to help you, if you ever need to remove this again, to replace these O-rings or anything like that. It just helps you pull it out and put it back in. So I think we're all well lubed up here now. And we're going to place this up on its end. Just going to drop it in there and start nicely fishing it into its bore. There we go. You'll feel it start to slip in and then be able to start pushing it in. Then I turn it around. I use my socket just to help guide me in there. And bingo. That one actually sat in there and stayed in there, which I like. And then you put your retainer clip in to hold it in place. And there it is. And that's all it takes to replace one of those. It's not actually that bad. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest, and we'll be back. Okay, we're going to work on these 2 now, and that is these and these. I already put the O-rings on again. So let's take the old components out of one of these and see what they look like. Push it in with your finger, lift out the retainer clip, watch it like fall or fly around, and then start letting this out. You may need to use needle nose pliers to pull it out the rest of the way. There's that portion of it, and there's more to come. There we go. Well, that's part of it. See if we can fish this out the rest of the way. Just work it nice and easy in here through the grooves. There we go. Now we're starting to get her. And there's the rest. And this slips inside of here, like so. And then these replace that. So now to go in, we lube up this part. Get a little bit of tranny fluid here on this so it slides into the bore. Carefully feed it in there straight. Just like that. And then we're going to lube up our second piece and put it in as well. Like so. Push it in the whole way. and then put our retainer clip back in. Like so. Okay, there's 4 more of these. You saw me do those on the other half. And they are here and here. And I'm going to replace them right now. You've seen me do it already, so I don't need to do it on camera. Just pull the clips, pull the old ones out, put the new ones in, put the clip back in. All right, now that I've replaced these 2 and these 2 with the number 4s, I'm now going to replace this with the number 1. And we're going to push it in just a little bit. We're going to slide this clip out. Now there's a lot of spring pressure behind this one, so just be aware of that. There we go. So what you're doing is taking this off the end and you're replacing it with this one. And what you're going to do is lube up the inside of this. You can actually just lube up this shaft right here really well.
That's what she said.
And then lube up the outside of the cylinder as well. Slide that on, push it back in. And then put your lock back in. You might need a little assistance with one of your tools or something like that. There we go. And then you can just push in your locking tab. Push down the whole way. Bang, that's done. Another part gone. Okay, at this point, I have not put my solenoids back in yet, but we are going to put our gasket on. We can put the solenoids in last. You can take your separator plate out, and you're going to line this up the right direction first. With some of these valves will actually poke up through the top. Actually, all these valves will poke up through. So you want to make sure all 4 of your valves are poking up through, and then you know you're lined up. You don't want to mar this up. And now you carefully want to take your other half and lay it down on top, making sure it's clean, of course. Lay it down lined up pretty well on top. Make sure your check valves are still in place where they belong. My gasket plate is in there. Both halves were clean. And they're going back together now, and I'm just putting some bolts back in just to hold it in place and line everything up, just like so. Wow, I am really bleeding. We'll be back after these messages.
Have you suffered an accident while reconstructing an accident? Yes? Then you could be entitled to compensation.
Now that the bolts are finger tight in there, we need to torque all of them to 8 Newton meters. All right, we're putting our shift solenoids back in now. Make sure you lube them back up around the O-rings. Put your locking bar in and put your bolts in, and then tighten these down to 8 Newton meters. Then we need to fit our TCM on here carefully, lining up our dowel pins and also the pin that is on the shift arm. All right, now we need to put our mechatronics unit back in the transmission case. I'm grabbing a couple bolts. We also need to line up the shifter and just carefully put this up here. Let's see if I can get some bolts started in here. Let's get one back here lined up. All right, it's now held in place. Shifter arm is lined up with the groove here. We can put our other bolts in. Okay, and the torque on these mechatronics bolts is also 8 Newton meters. So next thing you need to do is clean up your mating surface where the transmission pan goes back on. And if you have the plastic pan, it's 8 Newton meters on all the bolts. If you have the metal pan, it's 14 Newton meters, like I do. Don't forget to put your filter back in as well if you have the metal pan. Now, after you get the transmission all put back together, there is one last step, and that is that you need to reset your adaptations for the transmission. You're either going to need the gap tool or a good scan tool that can reset those adaptations. And then for the first 20 miles after that reset, drive around like you're driving the Queen around for you Brits. And then for another 20 miles, drive like you stole the Queen.
This is exactly how it all ends.
But drive it spirited for that second 20 miles. And that's it. That's all it takes to put the zip kit in your ZF transmission of your Land Rover or Range Rover. So save yourself the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars this would cost you at a maintenance shop, and do it yourself at home. It only takes basic hand tools. Now, I hope this video helps you out, and if it did, I hope you hit that like button, subscribe to my channel for more content. I do other things other than Land Rovers and Range Rovers. I work on all sorts of vehicles, so take a look. You might like what you find. But for now, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.